Great to have you on the show. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
It's a crucial moment in so many respects to our nation, the conversations that we have on air and in our streets. And let's begin what we saw with Jimmy Kimmel, the suspension after these comments related to the killing of Charlie Kirk, a reinstatement. What's your response to both, and also the time and the response between?
Well, when I first heard about the suspension, it just really backed up my view what kind of America that Trump wants to live in. One where it's free speech for MAGA and censorship for everybody else. And Carr, the chairman of the FEC, was straight up lying when he was talking. He put pressure and twisted arms for the different affiliates to take Jimmy Kimmel off the air. And he literally said they can do it the hard way or the easy way. So they were using the power of the federal government to silence voices. And then even if you want to just look at what Jimmy said, there was nothing offensive about it. They were more offended that he actually called out Trump for not being a unifier at a moment of great tragedy. Even if you disagreed with what Charlie Kirk said, which I did, I voted no on the resolution. Even if you disagreed, he still did. He still had a right to kind of call out what was going on. So I think this was a good move. And for Disney, I'm glad that they did it, but they only did it because the public backlash that people were canceling the subscriptions. And one of the things is we're not out of the woods yet. With Trump in the White House, basically his cronies throughout the federal government, freedom of speech is still being threatened every single day. It's going to make us less democratic, and it's going to make us more at the whims, put us at the whims of Donald Trump and his people.
Representative, as you speak about freedom of speech with regard to what we saw with Jimmy Kimmel's suspension, those on conservative media have been looking at the reinstatement and say that this doesn't agree with their principles of free speech. In fact, Matt Walsh, conservative commentator, is saying Kimmel's show was put on pause for like 3 days, and yet leftists will look us dead in the eyes and tell us this was a greater attack on free speech than the shooting and killing of Charlie Kirk. Your response to what we're seeing in the response to now this reinstatement?
Well, even this U.S. Senator Ted Cruz is not considered a liberal by any means, said that this was a dangerous infringement on freedom of speech and censorship, and that once we go down that road by the federal government doing it, it can have an impact. I was appalled by the shooting of Charlie Kirk. I disagree with him on everything. And you know what? He did not deserve to be shot. He did not deserve to be killed. Saying that, the federal government shouldn't be going out of their way to stifle the news, stifle information, stifle people just expressing themselves, because it is dangerous and it leads to a path of where people will get pushback for just expressing whatever they believe in, even if they get agreed with or they just kind of talk about what's going on in their daily lives. So this was a deeply concerning situation. I'm glad it's starting to get resolved, but we're not out of the woods yet.
Oh, and that's certainly true in so many respects, and with respect to so many issues. And that includes what you see day to day there in the House of Representatives and the halls of power in Congress. In fact, the government is a shutdown looming. The funding bill is expiring on September 30th, and if we don't see some quick movement, some sort of bipartisan accord, it looks like we're heading potentially for a shutdown. Republicans want to pass this, essentially this clean stopgap extension, this bill for 7 weeks of funding. Democrats, and you can speak to this, have been saying, no, we got to add, subsidies for the ACA, because that's going to sunset by the end of this year. It's going to make health care out of the reach for so many people. We do know that House Leader Jeffries and Senate Leader Schumer will be meeting with President Trump for the first time in maybe, I think, since this new administration. Just talk to us about what you expect to come out of that and what you would be doing if you were in that room with President Trump.
Well, the premium subsidies for the ACA, this is for people who buy their health insurance through Covered California or through the exchanges. This is if they allow it to expire, the health care costs for people who buy it can go from, in some examples, from $250 to $1,200 a month. So that's going to be devastating. This is on top of the big billionaire bill that they passed, or what they call the One Big Beautiful Bill, that cut Medicaid funding for most of for about 17 million people, cut SNAP benefits or food assistance to working class folks. So on top of what you're seeing already because of that bill, you're going to see these ACA subsidies expire. Our goal is to make sure that we limit the suffering that's going on throughout the country. And here's the kicker. The ACA subsidies, these enhanced premium tax subsidies, those actually disproportionately going to impact people in Republican states that never expanded Medicaid. So they not only are hurting because of Medicaid cuts, but the Republicans are also refusing to help their own people who have been disproportionately impacted by the expansion and now are going to be disproportionately impacted by the expiration of those enhanced premium tax credits. So we're trying to say, hey, let's help the American people out. Let's make sure that they don't suffer, including making sure that the government stays open.
Rep. Gomez, back in March, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer essentially gave Republicans the votes they needed to extend from a shutdown. That's why we're in the situation now. But a lot of people inside the Democratic Party said this was capitulating, this was bad for morale. What could happen this time? And if there is a shutdown, who's going to own it? Is that good for government? What do we do about the situation?
When the government shut down, everybody loses. And one of the things that Chuck Schumer wasn't doing early in the year, asking for something tangible that would help the American people out. Right now, we've seen month after month of increases in prices when it comes to the grocery stores, when it comes to insurance, when it comes to a variety of things, and people are suffering. So now he's saying, hey, let's not make things worse. Let's just add this extension of the enhanced premium tax credits for the ACA so that people don't get hit with another whammy and that they don't hurt more. So I think if people understand that, if they know that they're getting something tangible without adding more money to programs that they don't like, just kind of keeping it flat, I think the Democratic base will go along with it.
Well, a lot of people are looking at the functioning of Congress. You are a member of Congress, and we have a special election all about Congress, in particular the lines around congressional districts in California. Prop 50 up for this election on November 4th. We do have legislation bicameral proposed by Senator Padilla and Representative O'Loughlin to say around the country there should no longer be mid-decade redistricting and there should be independent redistricting commissions. But that's likely not going to pass. I mean, how are people in Congress, how are your colleagues, Republicans and Democrats, talking about these redistricting wars that are really transforming the way people are thinking about representative democracy?
Well, one of the way I kind of look at it, the only reason why California is doing a mid-decade redistricting is because Donald Trump has been putting pressure on Texas and other Republican states to find them more seats in order to rig another Republican majority in 2026. Because he knows that if we get the Democrats get the majority, we're going to act as a real check on the executive and a real check on what he's doing. And here's the thing. If we do not win, the Republicans in Congress will continue to acquiesce their power and their authority to Donald Trump, and there will be nothing stopping his agenda, either when it comes to the National Guard, when it comes to funding ICE, when it comes to cuts to science, you name it. He is going to be let loose, and his version of America, what he started implementing on day one of his administration, is not going to be for 2 more years. It's going to be set for another 10 years. So the consequences of Democrats not winning and allowing Donald Trump to rig the majority for Republicans is detrimental to what people here in California believe in. The idea, if you come here, you work hard, you get ahead, you move, you can do more for your family. That's what we're fighting for. But we know if the Republicans maintain power, Donald Trump's America will be further set in stone, not for 2 years, but for 10 years.
Well, some of the clashing of visions that you're describing on a national level and there in Congress, we saw in our backyard during the immigration enforcement and raids of this summer in California, in Southern California, in Los Angeles, including some military drones that were doing some surveillance operations. CBP has confirmed this. It was on June 7th, and for 4 days thereafter, you've introduced some legislation. You say that military drones should not be used for these sorts of surveillance operations over protests and beyond, endorsed by the LA City Council. Just talk about the bill, what you feel is a need, and what you say to those who say, look, I mean, we might need this in emergency circumstances, and there should be carve-outs to be able to use this because it's money-saving tech.
Military-grade drones like MQ-9s, are also known as Predators or Reapers, should not be used to do surveillance on American citizens or American residents exercising their right to protest or to voice their opinions or to petition their government, because these are military-grade technology. They can carry missiles, they can carry bombs, they can carry artillery. And I know also how expensive they are. These are not cheap.